Hey Mark, what's going on, man? Another great day to be here.
Yeah, great day, great day. Love that bumper music, man. I can't. It just gets in your brain a little bit after a while.
Now,
So
now that I've watched a few, I've actually like going on and they're on YouTube and they're on Facebook, and I'm starting to see links that I can click on. I think they put together a great reel, and I really enjoy the intro. And I just want to make sure that I put this out there for people that are first time listeners. Some of the stuff we're going through is very heavy, and it's great information. Just keep trucking. Just keep watching it, and as you have questions, write them down. But it takes a little while for the engine to get going sometimes when we tell a story, and it takes a little while to get there. We got to set the stage. So I just wanted to put that out there for our listeners and our watchers, our viewers. Just get through it and keep going, because there's some really great stuff that we're talking about.
yeah, and as always, we want to try to bring really educational stories, right? We want to give real life examples to clients. So our goal is not to kind of preach at the 30,000 foot level that you don't understand, but to give you real world scenarios and
Yeah.
things that we've seen over the years, right? That are going to benefit the client. That they need to know where things go right and where things go wrong. And so hopefully we can do that in a nice format. And today's a good topic. We'll get into that in a second. But as always, it's your time.
It's your money.
Right, I'll let you
Let's
do the
get started.
honors
No,
on it.
you got it this
All
time,
right,
man. It's
me
your
this
turn.
time. So your time, your money, because your time is just as valuable as your money, and we understand that. So once again, we want to bring you education, through this format, and hopefully today you'll find out a little bit more information about a topic that I think is on the minds of a lot of baby boomers and people as they get into retirement. Not necessarily the first day of retirement,
Sure.
but as they settle into their income streams, as they settle into retirement, and that's generational investing.
Yeah.
So when we use that term, we're really talking about different ways that parents or grandparents can invest or give or donate money to the next generations that they have in their family. So whether it's their kids, their grandkids, or in some cases their great grandkids, it's important to understand what's out there, what's available, some different things that they can put money into to benefit them down the road.
Right. I mean, and there's a lot there. You just said like 25 things that, a grandparent or grandparents could do for their children or grandchildren. And, sometimes as we tell these stories and these things happen, missteps happen, right? Like dollars get left in the wrong account, or, I've come across dollars that were in a UGMA, right? Uniform Gifts to Minors Act, right? It's an account that will be established for a child, but the child's 26 years old. And the UGMA never got transferred into the name of the adult, right? And now we got to go through this whole process, and what is the cost basis, or what is the tax implications of that? And it becomes a little harder to climb that mountain,
Yeah, and I find in most cases, grandparents want to do something, they just don't know what.
Yep.
And we see a wide array of different things that grandparents do, and that's that they do to give money to the grandkids or
Sure.
the kids. And the majority of the time, it might be even the old school passbook savings account.
Oh my God, yeah, like
Or bonds in general.
Right.
Right?
Do some double E bonds, like I'll buy some bonds for my grandkid. Yeah.
So hopefully we'll shed some light on the different tools that are out there, different things that grandparents can gift into, but also why it's important to gift a certain way and not necessarily put it in the grandkid's name per se.
Right. And that may make a big difference when it comes to college planning. If kids, I've had this conversation with a couple friends, like, hey, should we do Roth IRAs in our kid's name? And immediately I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to kind of hamstring them for college, because you're putting you're putting money in their name, and that becomes a potential problem.
Yep. And one of the common things that people always say is, well, I can only gift a certain amount, right? A certain amount. So let's get into the general sense of gifting, right?
Sure.
So gifting is obviously you're transferring money from one person to another.
Yep.
Right. And what most people refer to as the limit of what they can gift is the gift tax exclusion.
Right. Which this year is like 15,000.
Yeah,
right?
they can only, but that's per spouse. So if you're, grandparents and your husband and wife, you both can gift 15 per child. right? So if you have 3 children, you can gift 30 grand each children and not have to worry about the gift tax form. But in reality, when it comes to gift taxes, you can gift more and not worry about the gift tax as long as you apply it towards your lifetime exclusion, which is about 12 million.
Right.
So really there's not the handcuff or the limit. It's just a question of how you're going to file it and whether you're going to apply it towards your lifetime exclusion or not.
And it does happen where, like, sometimes people do want to give and they want to give more than that or want to give less than that. But, it's about timing because it's within a certain tax year they can do that, right? So if it's December 30th and I gift 30,000 each kid from each spouse, right? 15 each. And then it's January 2nd. Well, I mean, within a couple days that happens. Now let's do a real world scenario. What if both spouses are on their way into a nursing home? What happens? I mean, how does that look to the 5-year look back and all this other stuff kind of erupts and happens and it just becomes muddy. It's a very muddy situation.
Yeah, and that's the other reason why you really want to work with a financial professional that's going to set that up because, in New York State and other states as well, we work in 22 different states and New York is our domicile state, where we're located.
Sure.
But, in New York State, you can't just gift all your money away the day before you go to nursing home.
Hey, by the way, here's $100,000 and I'm going to go to the nursing home, right? Like, what are we
otherwise, everybody's going to do that. And Medicaid's going to require a lot of documentation of where that went. So you do want to be careful as you gift, especially as you get older, and be aware of that look back. In New York State, it's 5 years. I know in Florida it's 5 years, and
Sure.
Each state's treated a little different. But they can go back and look at all your bank records and want justification of where your money went up to 5 years to determine whether you're Medicaid eligible.
Right.
So just the gifting in general, you need to have a plan because if you gift that money and then that money's spent.
And then we now we got to come back and get that money, right?
Yeah, which may not be there.
I just gave you 30 grand. You're my kid, and then I go to a nursing home a year later. Hey, where's the 30 grand?
Correct.
I need the money. Medicare says, hey, we need the money back. You're not Medicare eligible.
Yeah. So what's important to understand is the amount you gift is based on current tax law, what you can gift, whether
Sure.
you're doing it now or applied to your lifetime. And that tax law changes. And it's also based on your look back period of whether or not you need care or not. So there's a lot of factors that go into gifting that clients have to take into consideration.
Well, I mean, I feel like, again, like we're talking about tools in a toolbox, right? Analogy is great here. Would you rather have just a hammer or would you like to have a hammer, a saw, and a screwdriver?
Oh, you could do everything with those.
Right? I mean, you got a hammer, and this is for the people that are good with their hands out there, right? Or let's do a kitchen analogy, right? Would you rather just have a ladle or would you rather have a mixer, a pot, and a air fryer? Oh, right. I want all 3 items because I can do a lot more, right? And it makes a lot of sense out there. So good information.
Exactly. And, the first thing people think when they're gifting is they think they're writing a check or they think it's
Sure.
cash, right? So let's dispel that notion and say, gifting can be assets. It can be mutual funds.
It could be a home.
It can be stocks.
Right.
It can be a home, right?
Sure.
And that's another thing that people look at is, hey, I'm going to transfer this house. I'm going to sign this house over to the kids.
Yep.
Right. I want to prepare for Medicaid. I just want to gift it to the kids. Right. But people have to understand what happens when they do that. When you re-register a house, when you go and refile that deed, so to speak, you're going to the court and you're saying you sold it for $1.
Right. And then becomes tax issues for your kids. Because now your kids potentially have to pay the property taxes and the school taxes.
So let's clarify that. And that's where I was heading with it. So, in a normal situation, when you pass away, if that house is in your name and in, say, a trust or a revocable
trust, right? Sure.
It doesn't go through probate, but your kids inherit it at a stepped up cost basis. Meaning, if you bought the house in 1980 for 30 grand, but it's worth 300 now, they're going to inherit it at the dated death value. So they're going to inherit it at the assumed value of 300,000. So when they go to sell that, they're not going to have a capital gain on it because they got a stepped up cost basis.
Right.
But now if you gift it to them for $1, you sell it to them for $1, and now you're showing a change of ownership and $1 changing hands, their cost basis is now $1.
Right. That's a big miss.
Yeah. So when they go to sell that property for $300,000,
it's all profit.
You know what I mean? So
let's make sure you do say that again and say it. So I want our viewers to understand what you just said, right? I own this cup. I bought it 20 years ago for $2.
Yep.
It's now worth 200,000. If I put it into a trust and it just passes to you, all the growth is now worth up to you to 200,000.
Yeah.
So if you sell it the next day for 199,000, what just happened? You lost $1.
Yep.
On paper. Ready?
Yep.
I bought this for $2 20 years ago. Now it's worth 200,000. I sell it to you for $2.
Oh, now I own it.
Now you own
for
it. Now,
$2.
2 days later, you sell it for 300,000.
I'm paying tax on all that gain.
All the gain is now taxable. That's a huge miss from a lot of people.
Yeah. So when we talk generational
You're not getting this cup, by the way. It's my favorite
I already
one.
have one. So when we talk generational investing, it's also about how is that generational money going to transfer,
Sure.
and the thought behind giving the property over to the kids is rightfully so. I want my kids to have it. I want to make sure that it's protected, that it doesn't have to go through Medicaid. But the implementation of how people gift is a lot of times not explained to them, and that's why working with an advisor, working with an attorney and a CPA to make sure that the kids are going to inherit that money or be able to keep that money in a tax efficient manner is very important.
Sure.
Right? Because we don't want to move things out of people's name just for the sake of moving things out of their name.
There's got to be a purpose, right?
Yeah, if there's a benefit on doing that, then we do it. If not, then we want to make sure that it's being inherited the correct way. And sometimes inheriting the correct way is them inheriting it as a traditional beneficiary.
And sometimes that might be the right situation. But sometimes when dollars are sitting in a bank account, not doing anything, getting eaten alive by inflation, sometimes they might be better suited inside of a different account.
Sure. And
You know?
since we did the analogy of the house, the same applies to, say, individual securities, so individual stocks.
Right. So a non-retirement account.
And that is a lot of times even, I guess you would say, more common, where a grandparent bought GE when GE was founded, maybe, right?
For 50 years ago.
You know what I mean? And maybe they worked there their whole lives and they had shares and they've just let them grow.
Sure.
And we see a lot of brokerage accounts where there's this built up capital gain that people
Right.
don't want to sell because they don't want to incur this huge capital gain.
It's too much risk, right?
They put in 30 grand, it's worth 400 now. They're afraid to sell a security and protect it. So what happens? They say, oh, well, I don't know what to do with it. Maybe I'm going to gift some of those shares, or maybe I'm going to get rid of them. Sometimes the best thing is for the kids to inherit it as is.
Do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Do nothing and let the inheritance take the issues, right?
Yeah, get that stepped up cost basis. So just like the house, you can do that with a security as well.
Or if you're in a situation where you just got an inheritance, that is prime time. And let's do a real world here, because this happened to me 2 years ago, and the people I was working with, they didn't do a full transition, and it cost them a lot of money. Let's say you just inherited $800,000 worth of securities, so stocks, right?
With a stepped up basis. So I don't
Because you inherited it from your dad, let's say, or your mom, and that $800,000 is now yours. And the next day, the market goes down, and now that $800,000 is now $775. At that moment in time, if you reposition the portfolio and sell all those securities, what happens to you taxably speaking?
I get a write-off.
Oh,
I get a tax loss.
so even though my dad had it for 30 plus years and you have it now, you're going to be able to have a write-off?
Yeah, which may carry forward. There's limits on what you can do.
Again, hypothetically, the best opportunity an inheritor has is the day they inherit the account.
Yeah.
That's the hot when you want to strike and
To rebalance it into what your needs are.
diversify, right? So
Because your parents' needs are not what they were doing prior, may not necessarily be what you need that money to do for you.
you said it perfect. My parents bought this one stock and they loved it. Whatever it was, it doesn't matter what the stock was, stock ABC. And they loved it. They had to keep it. Now I have to keep it, emotionally attached to it. Man, we got to pull those strings. We got to pull that string all the way to the cord and say, okay, hold on. This is a great emotional connection you have, but is it worth keeping it for the risk of, you ready? We get the inheritance, right? 800,000. And now it starts to tick, right? Because it's a lot of money. And now that 800,000 turns into $1 million because the market goes up. And I get cap gains and divs and I get these tax, and now COVID. Now the market drops 40%. So at the end of the tax year, I show I've grown because of divs and capital gains, But do I have the money to pay for the growth that I have incurred?
No, not necessarily.
Because the potential for the 800,000 I had that turned into $1 million now is worth way less because the market's down.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, you have a tax bill.
Yeah, and it's a great time to reset. We don't want to get too far off of the topic of generational investing, but part of that generational investing is making those key changes right when
it happens.
When it happens, restructuring it into when there's very little tax liability in most cases into what your goals and your needs are.
My point to our viewers is if you are an inheritor, you need a second set of eyes. Don't be okay with taking on the former broker-dealer, the former financial guy, whoever it was or gal, and just accept the truth that, okay, they're looking out for me. Get a second set of eyes. Hey, is this the best situation for me? And sometimes you might get a different answer.
Yeah, and part of that generational investing, and I bring it up because I saw it today with a potential client.
Sure,
is making sure that the TOD is on there, and we've done all things beneficiary, we've covered that type of stuff. But that is part of generational investing is make sure that it transfers for smooth to those next generations, right? Yeah. Now, when we get into talking about gifting money to say a kid or a grandkid,
sure,
the things that clients need to pay attention to is what is the age of that child, right?
Okay.
When you're putting money into a minor's name and there has to be a custodian on it, like you said, UTMA, UGMA, Uniform Trust to Minors, Uniform Gift to Minors.
Yeah.
Right? It's in their name. What big event do they have coming up that they have to show their assets for? It's college planning. Right? So
FAFSA, right?
Yeah, so grandparents who are their intent or well intended to gift money to the grandkid,
yep,
may be shooting the grandkid in the foot, so to speak, when it comes to applying for financial aid, because they're showing more money in their name, and they're not realizing that, hey, you know what, that passbook savings account, those CDs, the UTMAs,
double E bonds,
right? Double E bonds, all those things have to be reported by the child on the child's forms for financial aid.
Can I talk about a really great tool that I use for my kids? And I'll use myself as an example. I looked at all these factors when I was starting to think about my kids. And obviously a 529 is there, but it's also going to go on the report on the FAFSA and the Pell. And I believe it's still 5% is what counts on the report. But what doesn't go on the report is a viatical settlement. So a viatical settlement is what? It's a life insurance policy. So I could save $5,000 a month for my daughter or my son in a life insurance policy, right? And they can have $1 million in their name when they go to college in a viatical settlement. How much has to get reported to the FAFSA and to Pell?
For most schools, nothing.
Oh, wow. That's a big difference. And
I say most schools because there are
some want to see it, right? There's no 100% here. But the truth is when I talk about life insurance for kids, sometimes people get rubbed the wrong way and they're like, oh, you think my kid's going to die? No, I'm using another tool in the toolbox. And especially for grandparents, hey, we want to put $100 a month somewhere. We want to put $300 a month somewhere.
Yeah, and there's some great products out there that life insurance world that are limited pay.
You don't have to pay forever.
For 10 years or so,
sure,
whatever it might be.
20 pay, 30 pay.
Sure. There's sub-accounts traditionally in a lot of the investments that are similar to mutual funds. They're not mutual funds, but they're similar to mutual funds, so you can get some market growth in those areas, and it's a tax shelter.
But this is where, again, you go toe-to-toe with a guy like Ramsey out there that's just, term insurance, invest the rest. Well, you forget the nuances and the intricacies of applying for college.
Yeah, or the factor that let's say your grandchild and you're doing a viatical settlement, you're doing a life insurance policy, a grandparent legacy type policy for the grandchild. Let's say they're 4 and you start it, right?
Yep.
There's usually no medical exam.
No.
There's underwriting. There's
sure.
talking to the pediatrician, making sure that the child's healthy and stuff like that. But let's say at 8 they get late onset diabetes.
They get some kind of blood disorder, a kidney issue,
right? They may not
sleep
be
apnea.
able to get insurance.
Oh yeah,
just because of their medical condition. So the fact that you as a grandparent bought it on them early enabled them to get a base level. So when they have a family, they don't have to worry about, wow, I can't get insurance anymore. And some of those, the death benefit grows as the policy grows too.
Well, I mean, most of our listeners and viewers out there, they probably have a Gerber policy because that was a big thing when we were kids. Buy a Gerber policy. You got $50,000 in death benefit and a couple grand in cash value. That's not what we're talking about here, right? We're talking about something that's got a substantial amount of death benefit, but that's not for what we're really focused on. But it's ultimately a great secondary effect of having a viatical settlement, right? Or a policy. You know, your kid turns 22, they have 40,000 in cash value and 300,000 of death benefit for the rest of their life, and they never have to make one payment.
Yep.
I would say that's a significant amount of coverage, and they're taking 2 or 3 steps ahead of what everyone else doesn't have.
Yep. And they can usually access the money tax efficiently. They can usually put the money back in depending on how they take the money out. So there's just a lot of nuances.
I'm not rah-rah on, the life insurance stuff here, but it is a tool.
Correct.
In the toolbox. And a lot of advisors don't want to go down that road because it's hard, because it's difficult, right? And
that or it's got the word insurance associated with it.
So, right. So this is a great thing you brought this up, and I'm gonna kind of go down the rabbit hole here. If I said to a client or someone, just a normal person talking about, hey, I can give you a guaranteed income stream, no risk, and it lasts for the rest of your life. They're like, yeah, great. And then you say, oh, annuity. They're like, oh my God, no. Right? It's because there's a fear factor, right? I hear a word, I become concerned, right? And in that example I just explained, it's a longevity annuity, right? So
along the lines of insurance, that's one thing grandparents can do is
sure.
they can take out a policy in that grandchild's name, right?
They would own it.
They can maintain ownership of the policy, and they can then change ownership at any period of time they want. So why that? Let's put that in layman's terms. Why that's important. You may not want your grandchild to receive that money when they're 18.
Correct.
Because what are we all doing at 18?
Stupid stuff. We're trying to buy the fast car and impress the beautiful girl, right?
Yeah, right. So the grandparent can control it a little longer, and they can say, you know what, I'm gonna gift this to them,
right, when
it's their wedding day.
So wait,
after college.
You just said a very important thing. I'm the grandparent, and I'm gonna gift my grandchild this policy. Which means that I'm just gonna change the name of the owner, which is an owner change form, usually 1 page. What taxes does my grandkid incur?
Well, it would fall under the gift tax exclusion, but if you can apply it to your lifetime exclusion, you really shouldn't be running into any tax problem on that gift over. So
you're changing owners, correct. And there's nothing being sold. You're handing over a certificate, right? It's a good question.
Yeah. So along that lines of insurance, though, another way to look at generational investing or generational planning.
Yeah.
Right, is a lot of times in New York State, particularly, we'll run into a husband and wife couple that both have a pension.
Sure.
And they both have Social Security, or they're applying for Social Security, right? They may not need Social Security payment. So I always question people. I'm like, well, if you don't need a payment like Social Security,
this is huge.
Could be $20,000 or $30,000 a year, right? Where's it going to go? It's going to go in savings, and it's eventually going to go to the generational planning we're talking about.
Right.
Well, if we know it's going to go there, and we know that's the end spot that money's going to go, why wouldn't we look at leveraging it into a vehicle like life insurance?
Yep.
Where that payment, which is guaranteed from a Social Security standpoint,
never can run out,
goes to match a premium payment that can't be adjusted based on the policy that we choose, but now gets them a couple $1 million of tax-free death benefit.
I mean, I think we did cross this path once before, and again, a dear friend of mine, we had this situation, right, where you can take Social Security even if you don't need it and do something else with it, right? You could take Social Security if you don't need it. Think about that. A lot of people are like, no, what's a normal reaction? I don't need it, so I'm gonna wait. Yeah. I'm not gonna take it. I'll wait till I'm 70. Well, what if you pass in between 62 and 70?
Yeah.
How much did you
69 and a half, you pass away.
How much did you end up taking out?
Zero.
Nothing. When in retrospect, you could take it out, you could start the income, and then just take that income and let it flow into something else.
Correct.
And that's guaranteed.
Yeah, and some of the cool policies that are out there that people don't know are out there are not just a traditional life insurance, but there's ones called second to die. And some of the second to die policies, all of them will pay out when the second person dies.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, they provide more death benefit than an individual policy.
Well, I mean, let's go one further. The death benefit is tax-free.
Correct.
And then it would go to, so let's do a real world. So, Matt and Susie are married. They have Social Security coming in $2,000 a month each, and they both take it at 62. So they have $4,000 a month from 62 until 70 when they both pass away. So $4,000 a month is $48,000 a year, right? We'll just say it's after-tax dollars. and 48,000 a year perpetually all the way to 70. 48 times 8. Quick math. Quick math is 480,000 minus 96, so it's like 400K,
Yeah.
right? Give or take. So 400,000 went into the second to die. How much comes out? A couple million?
Yeah.
All tax free. So even if those people took that 400,000 and went and did something else, whether bank account or stock market, taxable, right? Those dollars could be fixed and guaranteed to the next generation.
Correct. Maybe a more efficient way. So we have to throw that in the mix, whether you like insurance or not. It is a very effective way to transfer assets to the next generation, right? Whether it's through a trust, whether it's not through a trust, or whatever that might be. So that's always an important part that we want to discuss with people. So let's move into community spotlight time.
It's your favorite time of the day.
This is always a great time of our show. We obviously want to once again highlight a business that we know very well, a business that we want to let other people know about, and give you just a little background of them. So today we have Cullington Precision Painting. Mike Cullington's the owner. He's located actually down in Cairo, New York. Their business is located at 58 Church Street, Cairo, New York, 12413. Best number to reach them at 518-303-4519. I can't speak enough about their practice. They came in and helped us out with the 3-season room that we had. But they don't just do painting, sheetrock work, doing the mud, sanding it out.
Yeah.
You can really tell the difference between somebody that is very knowledgeable and professional in their work, no matter what industry it is. And Mike's one of those guys. Great crew. They'll come in. They do the work. They clean up when they're done. They don't leave mess everywhere. They don't leave dust everywhere.
It's all about the little things, right?
It's about the little things.
I mean,
from the quality of paint that they use, to how they even lay the mud. There's almost no sanding. When sheetrock's done right, there's not a lot of sanding. Like I know from years of me trying to do sheetrock, it's not good to build out 3 inches and then sand it down to 1 inch.
I don't even try. I don't even dig into it. Trust me. It's better with numbers.
But when done right, it's amazing to see somebody do their job, which they enjoy doing. And Mike does down there. So reach out to him, give him a call. Once again, 518-303-4519. He's at 58 Church Street, Cairo, New York. So Cullington Precision Painting. So.
It's awesome. Great. It's a great thing. Mark, you talked about the little things, and that's something that as an advisor, as a father, as a guy that cares about his community, I like the little things, because the little things make the biggest differences.
Yeah, exactly. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about that 529 space, right?
Okay.
We mentioned it a little bit, but it is something that's very common that grandparents like to do. That is generational to an extent. And the 529 for people that don't know about it, right? It's a college account.
Sure.
And I say college account because it's technically college only, right?
Technically.
Now,
you can use it for other stuff too.
Yeah, and the definition of college have expanded since those accounts came out.
Sure.
Right? So it can include some room and board, right, at colleges. In some cases, public transportation. So there's some extended limits to what you can use it for and what you can't use it for.
Sure.
But it is a pretty effective tool. It takes the asset into the beneficiaries, out of the beneficiary's name being the child, and puts it in either a parent or grandparent, whoever's gifting the money into the account.
Right.
But there are some, hesitations by people.
Right. I'm worried about what if my kid doesn't go to college, right? Or what if my kid goes to college but gets a scholarship, right? These are very common questions that happen.
Yeah, and a lot of those plans, a lot of the 529 plans allow you to take out amounts equal to the scholarship.
Gotcha.
Or if you can roll it to the next child. So let's say there's 2 children in a household. So maybe you want to do one and you plan on rolling it
to the next one if you need it.
Yeah, to use it. So it is a good planning tool. There is a lot that can be done into the 529, but it does have a lot of connotations associated with, like you said, if they don't go to school, if they go to a vocational technical school or whatever.
People do get worried about it, and there is some cause for concern. But ultimately, if you have a good advisor and you're working with a good plan, that's not the only thing. It shouldn't be the only thing, right? Think about it like, the rule of 3, right? If you set up a 529, a viatical settlement, and maybe a passbook or a CD or something to that effect, you're covering a lot of bases,
Yeah, so, it's another tool in the tool belt, like you said.
Sure.
that grandparents like to use or that they can use.
Yep.
And we find it's very effective in making sure that there's money there for college, obviously, because it's tax free.
It's a big piece. I mean, that's a huge piece. Sometimes people don't know it. All the money I put in my 529, if used appropriately for college, is all tax free. So if I put in 10 grand and it's worth 100, when I use it for my kids' college, how much taxes do I pay?
If you put in 10 and it's worth 100, you're going to pay tax on the 90.
No, I use it for college.
Oh, for college. No, okay. I see what you're saying.
No,
yeah.
I put in 10, it's worth 100, and my kid needs to go to school, and her first semester is 50. I pull out 50. How much taxes do I pay?
Nothing.
Next year, I pull another 50. How much taxes do I pay?
Nothing.
Okay, that's good for our viewers to know.
Yeah. And, and in certain states to allow you to give you a state tax deduction on adding into the 529.
Oh, so I get tax benefits too.
Yeah, it has to be in that state that you're doing business in, right? That's why there's different 529 plans out there.
Sure.
But you get a little bit of tax deduction, state tax deduction, or, in doing those plans. So,
cool.
That's got to be calculated into generational, investing. Is perhaps maybe gifting or transferring assets out that give you a tax benefit may make your accountant happy when you go to file.
Well, that people don't realize that. I don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but if let's say you are an inheritor and you're a grandparent, and as a grandparent you just inherited $1 million from your parents, and you have grandkids, well, you could potentially put in X amount of dollars backwards for the last 5 years into the kid's 529 and not incur gift tax, right? Based on the state you live in. So if I'm a grandparent, I could give little Susie, little Bobby, and little Jimmy, whatever your state's limit is, and I think New York is 15,000 per year backwards for the prior 5 years. I can't write it all off, but I could still put it in there and not have it count as a gift tax.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a pretty cool loophole.
I think switching gears a little bit, I think we should talk a little bit about some of the things that we do as a group that can help benefit these generational issues. And one of the most important things that we do is we try to set up an educational meeting with the full family.
Yep.
Traditionally, what you find when you start talking about inheritance and you start talking about money transferring and stuff is people don't want their kids to know exactly what they have.
That's a big piece, right? There's a little bit of secrecy there.
Right, and you understand that, right?
Sure.
But at the same time, they also don't inform the beneficiary that they're either the executors of the estate or what, where accounts are, and they don't know how to process it or anything like that. So one of the things we offer as a group is we offer a generational planning meeting where we facilitate the meeting and we have the grandparents, the parents, maybe the kids involved. We make sure the executors is there, the trustees of the accounts, and we just kind of define roles.
Yeah.
And we talk about the general concept of money transferring. We don't give account detail or information if a client doesn't want us to, but we make sure everybody in the household is on the same page.
Right. Who has which job?
Yeah. Who do I call when mom and dad pass away? Who do I talk to? What's the contact information? What are my roles and responsibilities as a trustee or an executor of the estate? We want to make sure that there's kind of
a flow
and a flow
yep.
when assets pass.
Let me give you an example, and I think this is important that we talk about it. We had someone pass away early in January, and the first thing I got was a call from the lawyer, and the lawyer wanted me to send the money to him so he could handle it. But I responded to him, "Hey, we got TOD on file, man." I said, I need the beneficiaries. I don't need you. And he got a little bit frustrated with me because the truth is we just bunny hopped him. He does not need to be part of the process because we did the due diligence to meet with the parents to say, hey, what do we do when something happens?
Yeah, and it should be easy. It should be a few forms, a death certificate, a couple signatures, and within maybe 5 to 10 days, those assets
everything's transferred over. Right.
So those meetings that we do are very important. Another one that we'll do sometimes is what's called a fireside chat, where we'll have an accountant or a CPA come in, and we'll have groups of clients come in, generational families, and they can vocalize and ask questions of ourselves, the CPA and the accountant in the same room, and we can talk about different strategies that they may have or different concerns that they have, right? Because a lot of times the child wants to ask questions, but they're afraid to ask questions of their parents.
It's kind of faux pas, right? Like, should I ask this question? How much should I know? How much? I mean, I can tell you right now for my own parents, I know that there's a safe box somewhere in the house and there's a notebook and I got to read it when something happens. And it's like, I wish I knew more, but it's like, hey, I don't need to, because when I need to know more, I will, right? And that's okay. And that's okay. But as it comes to our plan, like when we do it as a team, we like to have things organized, right? Which is why we use a trust attorney. And when I refer people to Jane Marie, that's who I refer people to at Herzog, I tell them, listen, I want a systematic accounting of all your stuff with your estate plan. So that if anything happens, I can go and say, hey, Jane Marie, or hey, whoever the lawyer might be, where are the accounts located and who are the people that are on file as TOD? Makes my job a lot easier as the advisor.
Yeah, and generational investing or that we're talking about isn't necessarily always about the dollars that are going to the kids. It's the efficiency and
Where
how they're
the dollars
going
are, right?
and how easily they can find it. I was on an appointment earlier this week, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table, and the mother is in a nursing home,
Sure.
96 years old, and the only beneficiary, being the son, we're meeting in her house, and he's power of attorney, and he has, I don't know, 700 or 800 half-opened envelopes spread across the table.
Wow.
And he was never privy to any of his mother's investing, and there's a lot of assets there. He doesn't know even the first person to call, doesn't have a relationship with any of the advisors, has never been included in the conversation. Now imagine his mom passed away and he's walking there and he needs to access some of those assets, and he doesn't have the first inkling of what's going on.
Right.
So that's our job, is to make that easier for a beneficiary and easier for a client.
And sometimes, Mark, people push back. Oh, I don't want to do that. Right? It's not in my purview to do that. I don't care. Right? These are a lot of the hedges we get when we start talking to people about this, because you know why? It's scary. It's a potential to happen. I mean, listen, death and taxes, right? That's why people always say, what's guaranteed? Death and taxes, which sucks, but it's true. So at least let's be more prepared. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's be open about it and be honest. Because I feel like more than anything, I feel like one thing our group does very well is we ask people to be honest. Just be brutally honest and be open about stuff. It'll make life a lot easier. You should, as the viewers and listeners see it, incur that practice with your advisor. And if you don't have an advisor, you probably should find one.
Yeah,
to have that conversation.
We always try to be brutally honest back the other way.
Just be honest.
I always tell a client, listen, there's no benefit to either of us, for me as an advisor, to appease you.
Right.
For me to sugarcoat things, or if somebody's asking me if they have enough money to retire, for me to say, well, you'll be okay. Don't, you know what I mean? That's the worst thing an advisor can do, is not be honest.
Tell someone what they want to hear. Right?
And we do it in a polite way and in a polite manner. But if we're not honest with a client and telling them and being that, so to speak, brick in the forehead, saying, hey, you're behind in planning.
Oh my God, yeah, or you're doing great.
You need to catch up, or hey, you're ridiculous for doing it this way, because this is really going to hurt your beneficiary. If we're not outspoken, how does the client expect to trust us, or how does the client expect to move on and better their situation? So
100%, man.
So it goes both ways. We want the clients brutally honest with us, but we also want to be honest with them and make sure that they understand, the things that can affect their portfolio.
I agree 100%. We did a lot today, man. We talked about a lot of stuff, and I feel like, recap is important.
Yeah, so, in recapping, obviously generational planning, if you're thinking about gifting, you got to put a lot of thought into how and who you're gifting to.
Sure.
What effect is it going to have on them, whether it's for college for the younger generation
taxes,
or for taxes?
Right.
Are you getting rid of a stepped up cost basis, or are you using the tax code to your advantage? We also want to make sure that you understand that insurance can play a good role to leverage your assets.
Plays a major role.
In a world where there's a lot of volatility, there's products out there where the volatility is slim or none.
Non-correlational asset, right? We talked about that in our sequence of return conversation.
So in generational investing and planning, start thinking about streams of income that maybe you don't need. Maybe it's Social Security. Maybe it's part of a pension.
Maybe it's a dividend.
Maybe it's a dividend coming in.
Who knows?
Those are all things that can be used to enhance your generational giving. In addition to that, involve your CPA, involve your attorney. Make sure that you have trusts set up and that they're being managed properly and that they're going to inherit. And then also, don't rule out traditional accounts for grandkids.
Yeah, you could use traditional stuff like a 529 or a double E bond or a bank account. That's okay too.
Yep, just be aware of how they affect them for different circumstances, whether it's taxes or college or anything along that line.
Sure.
So, and in general, include the next generations in your planning.
At some point, right?
Yeah, have them involved, at least in understanding their role.
Right.
in that generational process, and also to understand how do I access the advisor you're working with, the CPA and the attorney, or how do I get to the information, my login information, my websites? How do I find what companies you're working with so I know where to start? So,
big piece.
So as a whole, communication is key, right? Communicate with your beneficiaries, communicate with the next generation, let them know what you're doing. So I think we did a good job of outlining generational planning today.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited because it means that another podcast is in the mill, another show is in the mill.
I'm excited, man. We've gotten some good feedback. We got 2 or 3 out there right now, and there's more coming. I hope people start, emailing us and talking to us about. I'd really like to do a live show at some point. At some point down the road, I'd like to do a live show. I think that's where we want to be, where people can comment and ask questions in the moment. And you know what? Sometimes we might say, hey, we don't have that answer right now. And that's okay. That's okay. We go to the board and we research and we talk and we formulate. That's the whole point of planning.
Yeah, I thought would be a good topic to talk about in our minute by minute as we close out here.
Yeah.
Is just kind of the fact that a lot of our clients are not in New York State.
They're not. They're all over the place.
And we're in 22 different states. Mm-hmm. And one of the benefits to that is we get to travel. We get to see clients. We get to go and kind of build our practice out in different states and see what's down there for our own personal vacations and things along that line.
Sure.
But, any favorite states you have? Any places that you like to travel
Texas,
to?
man. I love Texas. I lived in Texas for 3 years, Palo Alto, Texas. And I lived in Capel. And Capel was beautiful. Actually, the Capel Deli, my favorite place to eat in Capel, Texas. They made the Stub special. I used to have to go and pick up 5 or 6 Stub sandwiches on my rookie for my rookie meeting days when I go into the office with all the guys I used to play with, and the Stub specials will come out. They go like Texas toast, sausage, eggs, cheese, Texas toast, sausage, eggs, cheese, Texas toast. That's one, and I'd have to order about 15 every Friday. So. Hurt the pocket a little bit as a free agent, but at least I didn't have to buy the special rookie dinner. I avoided the rookie dinner.
We've got quite a few clients in Austin and San Antonio area.
I love Texas, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah, San Antonio is nice. Just south of San Antonio is one of the largest water parks down there, Schlitterbahn, which is a huge water
the
park.
Riverwalk is beautiful, too, in San Antonio. What's your favorite state?
State-wise, I like Florida. I like the Tampa area. We have a lot of clients in the Tampa area, and it's the West Coast is a little bit more laid back.
Sure.
That Anna Maria Island, that area is nice. Naples, South, and stuff. We have a lot of clients that retire down there, whether it's the Villages or we're in our Orlando area in general as well. That's a great state. The humidity though in the summer is a little bit too much to bear.
I like the weather outside right now. 60 and rainy is my kind of weather where I'm not sweating.
So, but I just thought we'd bring that up because we do a lot of business in other states,
sure.
And if our listeners are used to us saying, hey, the Capital District or New York, I just want to let them know that, hey, you know what?
We work everywhere.
We work in other places, and internet's a great thing. Zoom technology is a great thing nowadays. And we would love to take you on as a client. So we thank you for listening today.
Yeah.
Let's tell people where we can find us. You want to go through that, and we'll be on our way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You can find us at yourtimeyourmoney.net, and it's .net for your net worth. Phenomenal website. I don't know who the exact branding was, that name. I have no idea. I'm not like the catchphrase
That's
guy.
me. Thank you very much.
No problem. But you can find us at yourtimeyourmoney.net, and you can also call us at our 800 number. I don't know off the top of my head.
800-222-3202.
I'll memorize that at some point. I have enough numbers to remember, Mark. Jeez, man, you put me on the spot.
43 British American Boulevard in Latham, New York. Once again, the Esley Group with Cetera Investors. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, it's your time.
And it's your money. Signing off. March Madness. Let's do it.